Okay, before we start on the next chapter, I just want to touch on a couple of things that I saw and heard. I just happened to have an example on the board, and I went into outline mode, and I just want to show you how cool it is, I think. How you guys are getting this, and how you're making shapes out of other shapes. When we learn some other tools today and next week, you might think there's a better way to make a cloud. If I go into normal view, like on the weather app, there might be a better way to, not a better, there's another way to make that cloud, but you were able to do it with 3 circles and a rectangle and accomplish that anyway. So just walking around and talking to, or hearing you guys talk, I'm really impressed and happy with what I'm seeing. And the old school phones that I'm seeing, like I'm just looking at yours right there. What I really like is I'm seeing exactly what I'm looking for, where all of the keys are the same size and they're aligned and they're distributed. They're not all wonky, hand-drawn. So you're using the tools in Illustrator the way they're meant to be used. Now, a couple of problems that came up. Somebody said, my background was a picture and it worked great at home, but when I get here, it doesn't. And by the way, I'm curious, and I'll just, we're going to just look at people's work. This is Sam's. Is this a pattern or just an image? It's a pattern that's like in the film. Okay, so you just found it in there, you didn't make it. Okay, because someday we're going to learn how to make these, and I'm like, man, you made that already. You're way ahead. Gradients, we haven't talked about those, but I think some of you have figured out gradients or found them on there. So we'll learn how to make custom gradients and very specific, make them start and stop where we want, but you're learning that kind of thing. But the picture that came up, I had a photo back here. It's not here, it worked at home. When we put images into Illustrator, there's an option to embed it or to link it. And it's probably nothing you noticed. It's down at the bottom, it's a checkbox. You probably just hit okay, move on, move on. Embedding puts that photo with the file permanently and therefore would work here at school. But it also makes your file size a lot bigger. So when everything is on one contained computer, you don't need to embed it in the file. It can go find it on that same computer in whatever location you told it. But the minute you're not at that computer, it doesn't work. That makes sense? So embedding or linking, we'll talk about that in the future. Same thing happened with some fonts. If you have fonts at home and you're working with fonts off of your own computer, but they don't exist on this computer, when it pulls them up, it'll say Dog and Pony. Pretend that's a font name. You have it at home. It's not here. It doesn't know what to do with that. So it'll say, we have to substitute it. What do you want to substitute with? And you can pick from the existing fonts on this computer. But other than going back out and getting Dog and Pony wherever you got it originally and loading on this computer, it's not going to work. So there's a whole chapter on fonts coming up. But when we get to that, there's 2 options. Well, there's 3. One is you send the font with your file so the end user has it and can use it to print that file, and that's the only reason they can use it. So if you send a file to a commercial printer and you're using Myriad Pro, they have it. Let's be honest, they have Myriad Pro, but you have to send it along. You have to send your copy along, and in theory, they're using your copy and giving it back. It's no copyright, you have to buy fonts. So sending your fonts is one way. Using Adobe Typekit. So we all have subscriptions to the Creative Cloud. Adobe Typekit has a bajillion cool fonts that are available to us free, and they go with our project, and anybody else with Adobe Typekit can use those fonts. So those are the free, guaranteed to work, easy, and also very good fonts. Okay, so use Typekit fonts. When we get to that chapter, I'll show you how you can tell. And also just on the text tool, I'll show you real quickly, hopefully. Into properties. When you're looking at fonts, they renamed it. It's been called Fonts, it's been called Typekit, and they renamed it yet again. So in this filter that I'm looking at in the fonts, if you knew that you wanted a black letter, like an Old English version, you could click on this and it would sort all of those fonts that are available to you.
Is it showing up on the projector?
Huh? What?
Are you screen sharing?
No, I'm not screen sharing, sorry.
Okay.
You'll have to look up here just for a short moment. But there used to be, now I'm feeling like a idiot. These are the activated Adobe fonts that I currently have on this system. Acme, Acumen Pro, Proxima, Roboto, and Victor. Those are fonts that came from Adobe, and they're downloaded onto this computer, and I can use them freely. That way I know that they're going to work with anybody else who's opening this with Adobe Creative Cloud. And then the final thing that you can do that we haven't even talked about, oh, and everything is still crooked. This is great. The final thing that you can do at the very end is you can take fonts completely out of the equation. And what you do then is you tell, in the type drop-down, and again, this is a chapter coming up, you tell it to be outlines. So instead of actually being a font that you can edit, it makes each letter a shape that's outlined and filled with whatever color you told it to be. That way it's not a font anymore, it's just another shape on your Illustrator document. When you send that to somebody, it doesn't matter if they own the font or not, because the font doesn't exist. It's shapes. So when you're working on this, I would recommend that you use fonts and typefaces from Typekit, from Adobe Typekit, or whatever they're calling it now, and or things that are on this system here. If you use a special font at home, it's not going to come along. And until we learn that chapter, you're on your own. Okay? So does that clear up a couple of issues you might have had, or some weird things?